Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Green Team of the Legendarium. I'm your host, Cesky, and today I have with me the Solution.
Hey, everybody.
And I have with me a special guest that I hope you all remember. It's Eradandis. He's part of the Wordless podcast now.
Hey, guys.
And we're happy to have him back and to be able to finish out the Cradle series here. Today, we are going to be talking about Reaper, the 10th book in the series. So let's just talk about it really quick on a five-star scale, or 10, whichever you prefer. Where do you guys think you rate this book, just on its own or as part of the series? Solution?
On the first read, I think it was a 3 out of 5 for me. I'll give it like a 3.5 reread.
Okay. All right. Is that lower on the scale for you or higher?
That's normally lower than most of what I get out of these books, at least.
Okay, that's fair. Eradandis?
3.
Ooh, solid 3.
That's
Is that good or bad in this situation here?
Is this out of 5 or out of 10?
It's up to you, whichever you
Oh,
prefer.
No. Don't do that. Don't do that, Sammy.
No. Out of 5. It was I would call it an average Cradle book. Some of the flaws seemed a little bit more glaring than usual, which we can address. More than anything, I felt like this was a bridge book. Like, there's another story Will wants to get to, and this book is a bridge to get to that next story. That's what it really felt like to me.
I agree.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I would think I put this probably at 3.75 to 4 out of 5 for me. I have to agree, it does kind of feel like a bridge story. But I think we're just going to talk about it. So if you guys haven't read the books, like, go read them. They're fast, they're quick. Even Era mostly likes them. And that's a recommendation that anybody can get behind. So let's talk about the plot of this book really quick. Right after they've driven away the Wandering Titan, they kind of just settle down for a little bit. They want to do some labyrinth investigation, but are unable to. Reagan Shen is running around causing chaos inside the labyrinth. Then they are able to get into the labyrinth to try and stop Reagan Shen. Fights happen, things happen. They kind of win. End of book. But at the same time, with our space doctor, we have the Mad King coming and trying to destroy basically their galaxy/universe here. So
we have the Avatar of Death has come forth.
The Avatar of Death has come forth. That was those ending scenes. I get little chills, just excitement chills every time I read that kind of stuff. It just makes my day. So, you guys said it felt more like a bridge book. What do you think it was necessary to have this book, or could he have? What was it about this book that maybe needed to be changed or cut, or what made it feel more like a bridge book instead of a regular good old Cradle book?
Soul?
I would say he could have definitely cut down on the space doctor stuff. He could have still alluded to the Mad King coming to Cradle, which is what this entire book outside of Cradle was about. Mad King getting to this point. Could have trimmed that from even a little bit of the previous books as well. And then kind of save that for the next series, I feel like he's aiming towards, because he's definitely connecting it. And I want to get into this a little bit later, but there's connections to other series that are in his Cosmere kind of world as well. So we'll get into that later.
Okay. Era, what do you think?
So usually these books have one or two goals. They have an A story and a B story, and usually the A story and B story combine at some point, right? Or they somehow intertwine at some point. It's usually one goal that we're headed towards. Like, we're going to train and become and beat X, or we have to defeat Y, and we are way underpowered to do so. Whatever it is, right? Here we had a B story completely unconnected from the A story, with not even the main characters. It's basically the side characters. And as a side note, I would note that I actually liked this B story better. I was really kind of interested in what was going on. And then the A story felt there was no push or impetus behind it. It was like, well, we're just going to sit around and spend our time kind of training, which you guys know how I feel about that. But then they don't actually train, or they don't spend any of their time actually training, and then they're it feels like they're artificially pushed to get into the labyrinth, and then there's the pressure, right? So that's kind of how it felt like it was. That's why it felt like a bridge book. Kind of it felt a little bit disjointed, and so if I sound a little disjointed describing it, I think that's
fair.
probably from the
Yeah.
book. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So just for clarification, is the B story the space doctor with Suriel and the Court of Seven, or is the B plot more like Kelsa and kind of everything Reagan Shen?
For me, it was Kelsa and Jai Long.
Okay.
Kelsa, Jai Long, kind of all them. Um, which I'm like, hey, look, you want to kind of talk about the bad guy becoming a good guy, and kind of like the budding romance between Lyndon's sister and Jai Long. I'm okay with that. Let's have that discussion. But usually when Will does that, it's because those characters are going to connect to the main storyline somehow, which is what the Reagan Shen story does, which is what the Space Doctor story does. But this one, it stands on its own. It really is completely separate from the main storyline itself.
Yeah. No, I totally can see that. I agree with you. I kind of liked I liked seeing the Jai Chen and Kelsa and them trying to, like, he's kind of building it up a little bit more, but it does feel a little bit out of place where we're seeing them all of a sudden when we haven't seen them for 9 books. Even,
Yeah.
we've seen Jai Chen a little bit in the previous books, but he's always been very like half a chapter here and then half a chapter there. Whereas in this one, he has a lot more page time. So I agree with you. I'm a little hesitant. I agree it's a bridge book a little bit because he's trying to get bridge. In my mind, he's more trying to bridge our Cradle crew with our Abaddon crew. He's trying to connect them and make them like one story now, which kind of happens in the end of this one. But it's a big jump there at the end. Like it just starts happening, and so I don't know what I think. I think part of it is that as much as I loved seeing them do nothing and actually have time to relax and like live their life without immense pressure on them to like grow, that's what this genre of story requires. Like you were saying, Eradandis, there always has to be, we're underpowered for X. Our goal is Y. And this one was like, well, we can't get in the labyrinth, so we'll just hang out and wait for a while, which is just not as satisfying.
It felt weird. Yeah.
And then once they get in there,
I was gonna say, and once we get in there, that's actually, so one of the things I got used to with these books, and it actually I didn't really notice it the first time I read it, but I noticed it this time when I reread it. Usually in these stories, like, they're either somewhat underpowered or vastly underpowered. So the characters are usually either creative with their power, which that's the part I would enjoy, where kind of see the creative applications of it, or they're trying to figure out ways to win despite their weaknesses. Here, I mean, throughout, I'd say a good 2/3 of the book, they're arrogantly like contemptuous of essentially a dread god. Like, oh, we can do this, no problem. Which I'm like, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it really rubbed me the wrong way this time.
Okay. No, I could see that. Yeah. It was just so interesting. I kept, as this is a reread for all of us, this time I was trying to focus a little bit more. As I was reading the Reagan Shen, and he's been in the labyrinth for months. And every chapter started, every time he was introduced, it was like, this was the weakest his body had ever been. He was basically immortal. And I'm like, so if he's basically immortal, then he's gonna die, right? Because you're in the labyrinth and you've been in there for months to year, like almost a year by the end, right? And it's like, he just keeps going. He just keeps going. And I was like, just don't start him off as like the lowest he's ever been, basically immortal. A stick could knock him over, and then he just like demolishes everybody the whole time, right? He could have started a little higher, had less drain. I get he's a monarch, which is a huge step up from everybody else, but that was a little inconsistent with me. That's all. So this is a reread. What did you guys think of the subject one kind of plot line? The fact that the hunger madra is kind of brought about by people refusing to move on or to fight their new challenges, where they become complacent basically in their role.
Can I give you my hot take and then I'll let Soul tell me I'm wrong?
Yeah, give us that hot take. That's what we're here for.
Okay. The monarchs are cowards. The monarchs are complete and total cowards. I mean, that's what I took from. Hey, let me be clear. I actually like Subject One storyline. I should lead with that. Subject One storyline is actually interesting, and I kind of like the way that was set up and it was explained. But bottom line, what I took from it is every single monarch, Malice, Northstrider, Reagan Shin, the 8-man court, every single one of them, coward, 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 coward. They basically want to be kings of their little sandbox castle of Cradle. They will put millions of people at risk by letting the Dread Gods rule around because they refuse to leave and not move on. The whole point of being in Cradle is to attain more power, attain more power, attain more power. They actually have the ability to go on and get more power, and they're just saying, no, we're going to stop right here. Cowards. All right, done. Go ahead, Soul. You can tell me I'm wrong now.
That is not a hot take. That is exactly how I feel. I wanted them to be like Fury, where they want to get more power, so they leave. They leave with their family, and then Fury, even not through this book, but in a flashback of Malice, tries to get Malice to come with him and be like, "Hey, let's leave this place. Go get better, and stop, hurting the people of this world." And a little irritating. Yeah, yeah. So the revelation was, I like the concept though, that hunger is Madra inside the world is ruining it. So when they're staying, it's creating too much and all these dread beasts. So I thought it was a cool solution that you could kill the dread gods, but then as you kill them, the rest of the four gets stronger. And then do you have enough to kill the last one? It's basically saying the easiest way is just get all the monarchs out, because it's going to take a lot to get the dread gods all dead.
And even if you were to kill all 4 or 5, including Subject 1, it's just until they reform. They're never gone perpetually. But
Yeah.
Eric, I do have to say I'm a little disappointed. That was the coldest hot take I've ever heard.
Oh, you guys have been like, team Cradle the whole time. I'm like, huh? Maybe I've convinced you guys to come my way. I don't know. Like,
I think you a little bit, or I'm getting perspective, especially after finishing Malazan.
Yeah, no, I just agree with you. The monarchs are cowards. I have one minor little stipulation there. The 8-man army are not monarch level. Together, they have the power of a monarch, but individually, they are not monarch level. So they're
fair
okay.
enough.
But they're still terrible people.
But they know the secret.
I don't know if they know the secret. I mean, they might, because they can attain a monarch level, but one monarch doesn't have the power to force the other monarchs to all leave.
Yeah.
Right. So I like that. This book, I had forgotten that Yaren and Mercy don't learn the secret to the monarchs keeping the dread beasts around. It's just Lyndon and Dross. So, and as I was reading this, I kept thinking, maybe in the first half of the book, they're trying to make you think that Subject 1 was Osriel or something like that. At least when I was reading it this time, that's what I felt. It's like, what were you guys' thoughts of who Subject 1 was? Because we'd heard it last book, and we heard it a lot this book until we figured out, it's the first guy who kind of absorbed all the hunger madra to, help the world, basically.
I mean, to me, this entire book, that's part of the reason I didn't enjoy it as much the first time I read it, was because we have crazy theories in the Cradle verse, or whatever you want to call it. And we were like, yeah, Ithan is definitely Osriel. And I was like, you know what? I don't want Ithan to be Osriel. So I went into this book, and the entire book is clue after clue after clue that Ithan is Osriel. So it works better on a reread, but I'm like, I want him to not be Osriel at the end, and he was still Osriel at the end. And I was like, okay. So I was a little bitter, but going on a reread, I learned to just try and enjoy the action and and what was going down with the storyline and take the clues for what they were. I did not get subject one at all for him being led to the red herring.
Hmm. Eradandis, what
I,
were your thoughts?
I never thought subject one was going to be Osriel. It just the timing didn't line up with when Osriel disappeared for subject one. Having said that, I kind of thought briefly, very briefly, that subject one might have been experimented on by Osriel. Like I was maybe the reason the Dread Gods exist is because of Osriel, because and this was like in the first couple chapters where you see that Osriel was without peer, blah 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 blah, and he created all the stuff that no one had ever created before, and then he was creating penance, right? And I'm like, I wonder if he created penance because he created the Dread Gods. So that was a passing kind of like thought I had on the first time I read it. But so that was where I thought Subject One's connection was going to be to Osriel.
Something more along the lines of an experiment. That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I definitely caught that Osriel was Ethan a lot more. There's a lot of hints in this one, and I think if we'd have cut down, like I enjoyed the Osriel flashbacks, but I think if we'd had half as many or none, really, maybe like one, I think the surprise could have been more subtly put in there, and then it would have been a better surprise near the end. But this time around, I was like, oh yeah, it's like it's really obvious on my reread. That's all.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, yeah. Go ahead.
so I'm not an author, and I'm not gonna tell Will White how to write his stories. But what I would have enjoyed more, knowing now that Tiberian's remnant exists, I would have preferred Ethan to be who we thought he was, and then have Osriel be reincarnated by some fusion between Tiberian and Ethan, because you have the marble, you have all the knowledge, you have the Aurelius clan, you have all the clues talking about how Osriel was hoping they would have a descendant who would equal or surpass him, and I thought, wow, what a cool redemption story that would be to have Ethan finally redeem the monarch that he let down and becoming basically the new Reaper. That's what I was hoping would happen. Kind of like once I saw the Tiberian remnant the first time, it was not meant to be, but that was where my head kind of went.
I like that. That would have been a really interesting way for it to go. I think that would have worked really well. It could have worked really well.
I
It could
don't
have.
think it could. I mean, that would have worked well, but the causes for all the other stories lines that he has going, like, how do you solve the space doctor then if you don't get Osriel back? Is
You get a
Osriel
new
dead? Do you
Osriel.
just have the actual Osriel that wouldn't be Ethan show up?
It would be the reincarnation of Osriel, because you have in the marble and in the labyrinth, you have a lot of his memories and a lot of his thoughts there, right? So he would be Osriel, but not Osriel. He would be he would have Osriel's memories
Okay.
and Osriel's abilities, but not Osriel's personality. Because a key thing in the story is that Osriel was the master of everything except what Suriel could do, except for the power of the Phoenix, the power to heal,
Yeah.
the power to the superpower of friendship.
The big anime trope there. Yeah.
This is why he wants to manifest the joy icon. This is why he's so touched about the friendships with Lyndon and Yaren and all them. So I mean, that's where I wish the story would have gone. I mean, it's fine. Well, Will's going to write the story he wants to write, but I wish that would have been more of a reincarnation type of thing. But the story is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Just fine with me. Let's see. Was there anything that you guys really wanted to bring up and talk about before we talk about some least favorite scenes and such?
Yes. So I want to get into this before we do the favorite kind of stuff or least favorite. Will's books, he has another series that a certain character that I don't want to spoil that series and of Shadow and Sea and of Sea and Shadows. It's a trilogy that's actually a duology. It's a weird thing where you could read each book simultaneously and be fine, and it's a trilogy of both. In that series, the magic system is invested weaponry. That's one of the magic systems. There are invested weapons in this labyrinth that Ethan
Oh,
specifically has touched and used and brought from another world or was toying with in soulsmithing. So I thought that was a fun um, thing that I thought may play a little bit more of a role. I think it may play a little bit more role in the final two books. I feel like Lyndon may pick up some stuff that could be useful. But
Hmm.
I just want to throw that out there. It's a cool connection, similar to the Cosmere when you get those moments that are between series.
I guess the only other thing I'll add, because I don't really want to call this a favorite scene so much as um, I'll call it a twist that I think Will did, which I for one enjoyed, because it's very easy to look at the void icon and what Lyndon kind of represents as a negative thing,
Mhm.
as as something that's viewed as hunger, consuming, like as bad. And Lyndon views it positively, right? Like he wants to be able to have all this power, all this ability, and help his friends and help people and improve people around him. He wants everything, right? He says that a couple times, like he wants it all. So I like that representation of, hey, look, I'm ambitious, but I'm ambitious to the point of I want to remain the person who helps people, who cares for people, and not sacrifice them for the sake of ambition.
Yeah, it's a good motive.
I was just gonna say with your thing solution, he's kind of creating his own Cosmere here, and he's setting it up really well, where he can say like, "Here's
Yes.
the way. There's thousands of millions of planets. Everybody, can have one. They're all individualized until they ascend,
Yes.
right? And so he's able to say like, oh yeah, this one could easily be part of my story. Just nobody ascended from there in this book, and that's not a bad thing. It's nice to see the connection, but I'm glad that in the books that I've read of his, not every book is always like, "And we have to get to the Abadan because that's our main goal."
Right.
The goals are more, here's this book. It just happens to be connected. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see, what more might come out in future series and such.
Well,
But
I think his future series is gonna be similar to Brandon Sanderson is trying to do I think it was called Dragon Steel is actually going to be a novel, like a series, where it's the end game almost of his
mhm.
universe after Stormlight and all these other Mistborn, all that finishes. I think sorry, I think Will White's trying to do that with Cradle, where this is the beginning series to get you to the Abadan. He's going to probably take a break, do some other series, and then he wants to do a final Abadan series and whatever that entails, because I have no idea where it's going to start, just because I feel like it's going to be a little weird if we follow Lyndon for that one too. I'm not sure how he's going to end it with this one, but it's definitely connected because all of his series so far have specific iterations and names for their world that are all inside the same series, or sorry, all inside the same universe.
It sounds
Uh,
great. I'm excited.
Let me ask out of curiosity: are any of the iterations that are mentioned in Cradle, are those iterations actually stories and
Yes.
other stories he's written? Cool.
Yes. So the one specifically mentioned was during the Space Doctor. That one caught out to me today was they mention Asylum, and that's the name of the planet. Or sorry, that iteration. They said Othmanfind or whatever weird demon is inside the Mad King doesn't want to fight for power. Well, that's where the series with the invested weapons that I was talking about is on the
Okay.
planet of Asylum, the two magic systems. There's actually elder gods based on Lovecraftian horror lore, and those things really remind me of what's taking over the Mad King, and that's where I could see them not wanting to fight someone probably on the same level. And I don't want to go too far into spoilers for that series, but it's a very cool, unique slavery of humans to elder god and how they evolved as this civilization after that. And that's just one of the planets as Asylum. The first series he did, I think it's called Sanctum, and that one was mentioned a few books back, I think, by Serial, but not really relevant at all. Not that Asylum is either.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. If you guys don't have anything else, okay. Let me just ask you this: when I read the bloopers, I feel like I was missing one. Did you guys ever read the blooper where Little Blue is Osriel?
Yes, I forgot to read the bloopers this time.
That's fine. It wasn't in my copy of the blooper, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't like dreaming that one up. That I dreamed
no.
that Little Blue was the one who was like, "Oh, it's me. I'm actually Osriel."
Yeah, since
I actually remember we talked about that. We specifically talked about this when we finished it. I remember
yeah,
the three of us talked about it.
Yeah. Okay.
because he does a lot of little blue bloopers in place of the bad guys ever since Winter Steel, where or no, sorry, Uncrowned Tournament, where instead of it being Yaren, he's fighting Little Blue
Yes.
as the opponent
Okay.
at the end. And I was like, ever since then, he's always done one Little Blue in the place of some other bad guy or something like that, or some big reveal.
Okay. All right. So I figured we would let's start with our least favorite scenes here, and then we can end on our positive most favorite, and then some predictions. The next book, and next series going. So start with you, Era. What was your least favorite scene? Collections of scenes in this book.
Great. I got to pick one.
Well, you know.
I could pick
Let
your
me
other one, don't
see.
worry.
I spent so much time trying to find the good ones this time because I wanted to come in and say, "Hey, look, I found these good scenes." So for least favorite, you know what? So yeah, least favorite scenes every time that there's an expression of emotion from Ethan, um, frustrated me. Not because I'm fine with Ethan having emotion. All of it feels unearned in this book, just completely. Oh, I'm getting a tear in my eye because like my friends care about me. Okay, I get it. You're the Reaper. You've never had a friend in your life, and now you have friends. Great. I mean, I understand what he was shooting for. It just felt unearned. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I
Mhm.
feel like this should have been started like 3 or 4 books ago and trickled in, which they did trickle in a little bit, like with the haircut kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, but they needed this a little bit more, and then a lot less of it in this book. So it didn't feel like this was the book to say, hey, he's the Reaper.
Yeah. Solution. What do you think? What's your least favorite?
I would say my least favorite is Jai Long. I guess he just irritates me now. I know, I know. There's your hot take that pisses her off. No, he just this series is about Lyndon, and I understand the whole bad guy becoming good guy. I don't want to see that in this series. Not that it's not cool. I'd rather see that as like a novella or something, especially like Era mentioned, it works while it's on its own. I wouldn't mind Lyndon continuing to do his journey, and then we get novellas of Chai Chen and Kelso and all them doing their own thing while everybody else is off, fighting trick gods.
All right. I had one other remark about Jai Chen. If you think training is boring, this is why you suck. Like everybody else seems to like training, and they actually grow and improve, and you hate it, and no wonder you suck at it. So it's okay.
Well, yeah, I guess.
I
Well,
think my
let's be real. How many people like to train? Do you like to go exercise?
Yeah, she's
uh,
probably the normal one of this entire world. Everybody else is the weirdos.
I guess it depends. If I feel like if I could train and do cool magic and like things like that, and like really see tangible results immediately, I might be more interested in training and exercising a lot more.
Yeah.
But no, I think my least favorite scene, I'm gonna say two. The interaction with his father some more. I just tired of it from the last book. His dad still doesn't recognize him, and it's like, dude, he's meeting the emperor, and like he knows things. Like he destroyed a table. Like, why can't you just have a little bit of like appreciation for your son and be like, maybe I was wrong, and my son's not as worthless as I thought he was for all these years.
Well, yeah. You know what? Can I stop and put a pin on
Yeah,
this?
you go ahead.
I You may have to bleep this out. I'm like, huh? How would a fancy version of a racist dumbass look like? Oh, wait, that'd be Lyndon's dad. All right.
Well, we can use the beep thing, and we'll beep it in there.
I'll beep that for you. Yeah, no worries.
Ooh.
And then I think the other part, the least favorite scenes would just be watching Raiga and Shen in the labyrinth on his own too much. I think if we'd cut all of that and maybe shrunk Lyndon's do nothing time by half, this could have been a really compact, much more fast paced, less of a bridge book. You know, something's going on. We don't know as the reader what's happening until we get there. We find Raiga and Shen in the labyrinth doing stuff, right?
Yeah, on my Kindle copy, it showed 460 something pages. I know it
Yeah.
varies by everybody else. I would say this could have easily been like a 300 page book, nice and tight.
Or here, let me put this out here.
Okay.
Cut out half of the Reagan Shen scenes and add in more about the end of the world.
Yeah, we went by that
Because
really quick.
I mean, end of the world happens in like 4.5 pages. Like it
Yeah.
happens, it's over, it's done, and you're moving on. I mean, it was really abrupt.
You're right, it was. And I definitely wish we'd had more there for sure.
Well, I
That would
think
have been
we're not going to get a slow portion for the rest of the series. Like we had this whole 2 or 3 months that they just did nothing. I think he's going to use that whole dealing with this aftermath of what happened for the first 10-20% of whatever the start of this next book is before they really get into it. So I feel like that's what he's trying to use that for, I guess. I don't know. I think that's why he cut it there.
All right, well, let's move on to our favorite scenes. I'm going to start with this one just because I can. Some of my favorite scenes are obviously when Ethan removes the veil from himself and he's like, I am Osriel, like, but right before that, where you're seeing all of the people who have prophecy powers and they're like, the world is ending. Like, there is no hope. They're all like, a destroyer has come. And then Ethan reveals himself as Osriel, and then everybody else starts dying even worse, and they're just like, the destroyer has come. Not just a destroyer. This is the destroyer of destroyers. Like, that just gives me those chills of just like, oh my gosh, there he goes. And then, you know, him repelling the Mad King for a little bit. So I loved it. Whoever wants to go, I want to hear it.
I have a less serious one, so you can go ahead, Aaron.
Well, you took. I had 3. You took 1. So, I was going to say as a style point, I like the fact that he had that one section that a destroyer has come, then the destroyer has come. So you already said that well. Another scene I would say is a favorite scene is when they're when Lyndon's soul forging new weapons and they're fighting over what they should name it. Like, I love the fact that Will White is, yes, like fantasy weapons have the most ridiculous names. So let's combine every pronoun or every adjective in the world to, like, you know, make a weapon. And he even makes fun of himself when he says, and, you know, so we're picking the spear's name is Midnight, cursed spear of destruction. The spear's not cursed in the first place, but set that aside. But he makes a point of looking at Mercy, who names the weapon, and looks at her bow, Eclipse, another 5 words to its name. I can't remember what it is right now.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's such a good scene. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I like that. So
that's a good one. Mine is sillier, but I'm a big fan of the scene when Little Blue beats the crap out of Kelsa because it's training. She's like, "All right, Lyndon is the master. I'm gonna do what Lyndon does," and just beats him up. And they're like, "All right, you need to calm it down a little bit. I understand, little spirit, but you're a little too powerful for them."
I love that scene. You're right at the end. She like looks at him again after bowling her over,
like, "You sure?"
and he's like, "Well, just tap it
so
down a little bit." Yeah, that was
that was a good scene.
that was pretty
That one
funny.
that'll get me every time.
Okay, so we know the next book is called Dread Gods. What are our predictions for the next book and the series, I guess?
You want me to go? You want to go?
Whoever wants to go.
You go first.
Well, all right. So I now think that the story has to end with the guys leaving Cradle, because I don't think they're going to leave Cradle until the series is over. Lyndon now knows how to get rid of the Dread Gods. And if you remember in the story, he says, I have to get the monarchs to come with me. So I think there's going to be, and we know that Reagan Shen's going to be gearing up to fight Lyndon or get him off planet. So I think it's going to be a combination of Lyndon spending the rest of the series either getting the monarchs off of Cradle or killing them before he ascends.
Cool.
So.
Yeah, I think you're right. It could turn into like Harry Potter spoilers for an old series, Deathly Hallows, where they're doing the Horcruxes, but they're now the monarchs. He's got to get them all off or kill them, find some way. But I think he's gonna twist it a little bit. I'm thinking maybe Reagan Shen is like he succeeds. I'm thinking Lyndon succeeds in getting one or two off, but Reagan Shen actually does kill a Dread God or something like that and makes the others more powerful. I'm feeling like then we got to deal with that. I don't know.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
I think we both forgot something. Reagan Shen has the binding to Subject 1, so Reagan Shen, more likely than not, is going to become a Dread God.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he already powered up the Dread Gods by awakening them. So they're not just instinctual. They're all awake and have the power. So, sorry.
So,
finish your thing.
Era's probably right. Reagan Shen probably will become a Dread God this book. I feel like they're gonna kill one. They gotta kill at least one, even though they're not supposed to. And it's easier and better for the world to get the monarchs off. But this whole series, there's been a lot of trying to kill Dread Gods. I feel like they gotta kill at least one. I don't know if it's gonna be Reagan Shen or maybe that's the last book, but maybe this one is Reagan Shen becomes the Dread God and then they kill him in the last one. They're all like, oh, let's all, kumbaya, and all the monarchs leave.
Well, you do remember there is an alternative future where Lyndon, basically, he's for all intents and purposes, it looks like he's permanently killed at least one Dread God, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think he's got to kill one.
He permanently killed one.
Yes, no, that's what I'm saying. Not put it to sleep and then like dead.
Yeah. I came in with one set of predictions, and listening to you guys predict has made me split that into two sets of predictions.
Okay.
So the first set of predictions I kind of had was he's going to get the monarchs off and either kill a Dread God or just let them devolve naturally, because the Dread Gods, while cataclysms of destruction, they do accelerate the growth of people on Cradle a lot. You have to get stronger to survive. And then the next book would have been, I don't remember where I got this, but for some reason I thought in my head that like Lyndon has to beat the Mad King in the final book. Like that's his end up goal, is to basically ascend to his level. But that would be an insane power jump from barely getting off planet to like as high as Osriel. So I'm a little less sure on that one now. But my predictions, listening to you guys for this next book, I'm not sure if it's going to be one or both books, but I think he's going to get the monarchs off the planet first and then kill the Dread Gods, because then the Dread Gods won't have the monarchs powering them up with their continued presence. And I definitely agree with you, Ed, that Reagan Shen will turn into a Dread God and Lyndon will definitely kill him.
I don't like your last theory just because the way this series goes in progression fantasy, that's the logical way, but that's kind of boring. If we get all the monarchs off and they're like, cool, the Dread Gods aren't that powerful, we'll go kill them now. I feel like that's the sole reason I wouldn't go with that one.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's why I wonder if maybe that plot will take both books, because the Dread Gods are so much more powerful. I mean, I feel like he could take the Wandering Titan and the Phoenix. I feel like those are the two lesser ones. But the Silent King with his Dream Madra, that was a pretty intense scene where he controls a whole city worth of people, and they don't notice or care. Or I see you shaking your head. You disagree. What do you disagree about?
Well, because the book, the series has to end with them springing Osriel from jail to become the new Reapers. That has to happen, right?
I like that. I definitely think they're getting off planet without the Abaddon, so they're not bound by those rules.
Yeah,
for
they're
sure.
Gonna do their own thing.
But I love the prison break idea for Osriel. I like that a lot.
Yeah, a lot of flashbacks.
It will be a full circle thing, because remember, Lyndon's in jail and Ethan's always coming back to kind of train him, and they're like, we give up, so.
Yeah.
No, I like that a lot. That's a good theory.
One of the last things I'll say is that, in case anybody's unaware, the Dread God logo, the symbol for the book cover, is confirmed that it is the halo around the Silent King, that Dread God. So that is also supposed to feature prominently in this one, especially with the whole dream mantra. I'm sure that's probably how he fixes Dross finally, is maybe he consumes most of this Dread God, kills it or something like that, and then he can fix Dross. So
Okay.
that's part of it.
I like that. But here's a next question for you guys. Last question for me, I promise.
Okay.
Which one is the scariest Dread God to you out of the 4? The Silent King, the Wandering Titan, the Bleeding Phoenix, or the Weeping Dragon?
Well, it can't be the Ninja Turtle that is the Earth. I mean, that's too silly. I can't. It's just funny.
The Wandering Titan? Okay.
Yeah, the Wandering Titan. The Phoenix is just kind of too cool, and then the Dragon's kind of cool. I think that the Silent King, a tiger that basically can make you see whatever you want and hallucinate, that's probably the scariest thing to me.
Aaron?
I'm gonna go with the Weeping Dragon because we know the least about it, and to the extent we know anything about it, it cried with joy and killed thousands of people. That's literally the only thing we know about the Weeping Dragon. So
I was just thinking that. That's all we know is it wept in joy and then everybody died. It's like,
So-
I think it's a toss up between those two, but I have to go with the Silent King just because he kept all of his smarts the whole time. Like he never dipped into just instinct. So he's
Yeah.
had a lot of time to plan, and just dealing with dream module that can control you is just scary. So that's going to be mine. But if you guys don't have anything else, I think we're pretty much
I will
done.
just make a quick suggestion for a series that I know Chesky loves. If anybody likes Dread Gods as a concept, go read the Worm series, because there are Endbringers in there with a very similar concept that I feel like Will was definitely influenced on. And those Endbringers are just as cool, if not even cooler, than these Dread Gods as a concept. And that's my
Hard agree.
recommendation. Yeah.
Hard agree there.
I will say that I have tried other progression fantasy or other lit RPG, however you want to call it, and 2 that I think other people would like, that you guys should give a try. One's called The Iron Prince. I forget who wrote it,
That's
but The Iron Prince.
Bryce O'Connor, I believe.
Yeah, and that's just basically the book is like one gigantic ghost water. So, which, as you guys may recall, was not my favorite Cradle book, but it was one of Soul's favorite books. So, for people who like books the way Soul does, I think you would really, 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 really enjoy The Iron Prince. And the other one, which, if you like the humor that kind of sprinkles throughout this one, there's another story called He Who Fights Monsters, which is pretty ridiculous and does not take itself too seriously. Kind of follows the same trajectory as Cradle. I think people would like that too.
Those are great recommendations. I've been
Yeah.
reading some other ones that are not worth mentioning, but Cradle's definitely the top or near the top of the progression lit RPG fantasy style. So, all right. Well, if that's everything that we have to say, and I think it is, that was great. I just want to say thanks to everybody here for listening. Thanks to the Legendarium podcast for letting us take a small corner of the internet for ourselves and to cash in on your good name. We'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
All right. See you.
Bye. Thanks for inviting me back. Bye, guys.